Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Industry Training Series. My name is Reiber, and today we're going to be talking about screenwriting. There are multiple different types of scripts. There's narrative, broadcast, news, and more. But for today's episode, we're going to be going over how you plan, format, and bring a narrative screenplay to life. Let's dive in. Writing a screenplay isn't as simple as it sounds. If you have an idea, that's great, but it's hard to write even a 10-page script off the dome. That's why the first step in screenwriting is organization. Writing a script is like climbing a ladder. You have to take small steps to reach the top. Every writer wants to jump straight into writing the script, but you have to make outlines and beat sheets and character sketches before even touching a script. It might sound like a lot, but if you make the necessary preparations, the screenwriting process will be a breeze. Step 1 on the screenwriting ladder is note-taking. This might sound obvious, but if you have an idea, write it down. It doesn't have to be eloquent or perfect or make sense at all, but write it down somewhere. When you do that, your idea stops being something that just lives in your head, and it becomes something real. It's on paper, and it's something you can build off of. That's why notes don't have to be perfect. It's a concept you can build a blueprint off of. Ideas can hit you anywhere and at any time, so don't be afraid to jot them down. Usually, whenever I go for a walk or listen to music, ideas will pop into my head. I take out the notes app on my phone and just make a quick note of it. It'll help a ton when you go into the second step of screenwriting, which is the outline. This is the writing outline I use for the scripts that I've written. It follows Joseph Campbell's 12-part story structure called The Hero's Journey. Sometimes this outline is called a beat sheet instead of an outline, but the two terms are used interchangeably in the writing world. For this video, I'm going to be referring to this part of the process as an outline. Now, not every story has to follow the hero's journey. It's not every writer's cup of tea, but it's a solid guideline that's worked for countless stories. I don't want to say anything another more qualified writer on YouTube has said, so if you've never heard of the hero's journey and want to know more, go check out these videos. Using this template is like a fill-in-the-blank with your story. By the end, you should have a complete beginning, middle, and end. Here's what my outline for Super Tall looked like. For the ordinary world/status quo, we have our hero Talia watching the news, where we get some totally subtle exposition from the anchor. Then we meet our side character Jamie, and the two characters start their date. These couple of scenes establish the setting, protagonist, and the general status quo of the story. Every story needs an inciting incident that disrupts the status quo and introduces conflict into the story. For Super Tall, the inciting incident was the giant monster attacking the city while Talia is on her date. Our refusal to the call of adventure beat happens when Talia tries to ignore the monster and stay on her date, which is interrupted by our mentor's aid beat, where Talia's superhero boss, Belloc, has a telepathic lecture with her, which leads to our through the threshold beat. We get some action of Talia fighting the monster as our Trials of the New World beat. If you want to see how the rest of the outline unfolds, check out the full outline in the link in the description below. Once you're done with an outline, you can move on to the beat sheet. Using your outline as a reference, write down everything that happens in each scene in chronological order. Don't worry about making it fancy. The purpose of a beat sheet is to have a clear-cut reference of what happens in every scene. Once you've done that, you should make some character sketches. In a character sketch, you explore what makes your characters human or not human. You should ask yourself what your character's flaw is. What are their strengths? What do they want? How does their flaw get in the way of what they want? Knowing your characters like the back of your hand will help with when you're writing them. Once you've completed your outline, beat sheet, and character sketches, you're in great shape to start writing your script. Screenplays have to be written in a specific format. Writing in screenplay format is like following PEMDAS in algebra. The screenwriting version of PEMDAS starts with scene heading. You write whether the scene takes place in an interior or exterior of a location, then you write the location, then you write the time of day. Next are the action lines. Here you want to convey the physical movements of what's happening in the scene. Movies and television are a visual medium, so write as plainly and literally as possible. We're not writing novels. It doesn't have to read pretty, it just has to read practically. All you have to know is what's visually important, so it's a good rule of thumb to start a new action line with every new action. Make sure your action graphs don't go over 4 lines too. This helps with readability and helps with the pace of your script. When your characters are ready to talk, put the character's name at the center of the page and their dialogue underneath. If you want to indicate a certain emotion readers wouldn't otherwise register, put a parenthetical in between the character and dialogue lines. When you want to transition to the next scene, you add a transition line. Transition lines are simple. You write cut to or fade to, and then add the scene heading of your next scene. Scene headers, action lines, dialogue, parentheticals, and transitions all have unique spacing on the page. Luckily, almost every screenwriting software takes care of that formatting for you. We recommend using industry-standard screenwriting softwares like Fade-In and Final Draft. They are pricey, but there are student discounts for both. If you're writing on a budget, which is every writer, Writers Do It and Celtx are both free and get the job done just fine. Fade-In has a free version as well, and it works perfectly. Whatever software you go with, be sure to check for a student discount. Congratulations on completing your screenplay. If your script winds up being adapted into a movie or TV show, your job as a writer isn't over yet. Bringing a script to life is a complicated process. Making a movie involves a lot of uncontrollable external factors, and the more factors there are, the less control you'll have over your story. As a part of the team, you'll have to make some compromises with the director and producer. Scenes will be cut, dialogue will be shortened, and characters removed from the story entirely. It's tragic, I know, but changes are always made for a reason. For Super Tall, I wrote new drafts based on the logistics of what props were available, how much time we had in the studio to film, and actor availability. Variables are constantly changing when making a production, and the script is more often than not the first thing that has to adapt. Everything I just said is a screenwriter's worst nightmare. However, rewrites aren't the same thing as story assassination. They can be, but not always. It depends on the producers and director you're working with. Half the game is finding the right team that understands your vision and wants to bring it to life. When you're with the right team, making these compromises is a lot easier. You have to be willing to accept changes so long as the integrity of your story remains intact. That's the important part. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with some quick tips and tricks from one writer to another. Don't worry if draft 1 sucks. There isn't a single 10 out of 10 first draft in existence. If you're not proud of what you wrote, just don't worry. Just say, it was just a first draft, and you'll be exonerated from any and all criticism. It's science. Eventually, however, you will have to accept some criticism, so make sure you're getting constructive criticism. Share your work with other writers. They might give good feedback on your story, and reading their stories could help inspire you with your own writing. Iron sharpens iron. And let other non-writers read your script too. This is helpful to see how your script reads to the average eye. Something might sound great in your head, but not sound great when someone actually reads it. Plus, it's fun having people read your script. I know it's scary, but don't be afraid to share your story. Be confident in what you have to say. If you think it's cool, there are other people who think it's cool too. One of my personal philosophies is best idea wins always. If someone has an idea that points your story in a better direction, follow that idea. Pride won't take you far. Collaboration will. And finally, just let it rip. When you're writing, there's nothing except you and the page. No one else is looking over your shoulders. No producers are waiting to make cuts. Draft number 2 isn't ready to upend your work. It's just you and your story. This time is the best part of the job, so enjoy it. Take this whole video as a suggestion more than the end-all be-all authority on screenwriting. I'm learning too. You can find all the templates from today's video, as well as the links to the screenwriting softwares in the description below. You can also find these templates on our website and Instagram. Good luck out there, screenwriter.